The legacies of Reconstruction. Reconstruction was in many ways profoundly limited. African Americans did not receive the land ownership that would have provided them with the economic independence to bolster their freedom from the racist assaults of white Southerners. The civil and political rights that the federal government conferred did not withstand Redeemer's efforts to disfranchise and deprive the freed people of equal rights. The Republican Party shifted its priorities elsewhere, and Democrats gained enough political power nationally to short-circuit federal intervention, while numerous problems remained unchanged in the South. Northern support for racial equality did not run very deep, as white Northerners who shared many of the prejudices of white Southerners were happy to extricate themselves from further intervention in Southern racial matters. Nor were there sufficient support to give women, white and black, the right to vote. Finally, federal courts, with growing concerns over economic rather than social issues, sanctioned Northerners' retreat by providing constitutional legitimacy for abandoning black Southerners and rejecting women's suffrage in court decisions that narrowed the interpretation of the 14th and 15th Amendments. Despite all this, Reconstruction did transform the country. As a result of Reconstruction, slavery was abolished, and the legal basis for freedom was enshrined in the Constitution. Indeed, blacks exercised a measure of political and economic freedom during Reconstruction that never entirely disappeared over the decades to come. In many areas, free people, as exemplified by Congressman Jefferson Franklin Long, among many others, asserted they could never what they never could have done during slavery: control over their lives, their churches, their labor, and their families. What they could not practice during their own time because of racial discrimination, their descendants would one day revive through the promises codified in the 14th and 15th Amendments. African Americans transformed not only themselves, they transformed the nation. The Constitution became much more democratic and egalitarian through inclusion of the Reconstruction Amendments. Reconstruction lawmakers took an important step toward making the United States the more perfect union that the nation's founders had pledged to create. Reconstruction established a model for expanding the power of the federal government to resolve domestic crises that lay beyond the ability of states and ordinary citizens. It remained a powerful legacy for those elected officials in the future who dared to invoke it. And Reconstruction transformed the South to its everlasting benefit. It modernized state constitutions, expanded educational and social welfare systems, and unleashed the repressed potential for industrialization and economic development that the preservation of slavery had restrained. Ironically, Reconstruction did as much for white Southerners as it did for black Southerners in liberating them from the past.